Hey everybody, RC here. Welcome back to Let's Play Dwarf Fortress Anviltrumpets. This is the second episode, and we're picking up. As I mentioned in the first episode, this is going to be a real bare bones meat and potatoes walkthrough just to really help some friends of mine get up to speed on how to play the game. If it helps anybody else along the way, that's great. Dwarf Fortress was a game that I tried to start playing at least 3 or 4 times. I'd start playing it, couldn't figure it out. I'd get frustrated and rage quit. I wouldn't play the game for a long time, and then I'd come back to it and I'd read some more things on the forum, and I would go, man, this game just sounds so incredible. I wish I could understand it. And then I'd try it again, and the same thing would happen. And it literally took me probably 5 or 6 times of starting to play the game, watching a ton of videos. Captain Duck was the very first tutorial series that I watched that really got me engrossed in the game, and I highly recommend those Captain Duck tutorial videos. I know he did update them, but even if you look at the old ones, a lot of the controls are the same. There's been a lot of things added to the game. But just very helpful in getting started, and that's kind of the goal I want mine to do is to just help my friend kind of be able to get into the game and strike the earth and have some fun, and that's what Dwarf Fortress is all about. So picking up from the last episode, we had decided to call our fortress Anviltrumpets, so then we're going to hit escape that we're done, and we can also name our group randomized. How about the brass staff? That sounds fine. I'm more about naming the fortress than the group, and I never remember that stuff anyway. So we'll move on from there. So we have 0 points left, and you can handicap yourself by keeping points, not and make this as hard or as easy as you want. So you can min-max it. You can make it really hard. There's all kind of suggestions that you start the game with no picks or no axes or no food or various different things, and you can make it as hard as you want. So at this point, we've named our fortress, we've named our group, we've added in the animals that we want, we've optimized our inventory that we're going to bring, and we are ready to hit the E button and embark. And so we hit that, give it a moment, and we have arrived. After a journey from our mountain home into the forbidding wilderness beyond your harsh trek has finally ended, your party of 7 is to make an outpost for the glory of all at Ash Ates. No supplies left almost. Stout labor comes sustenance. Let's see, this does tell us that dingoes get hungry, so strike the earth. So we hit the escape button, and I'm going to pause the game by hitting the space button immediately. The space bar will be your friend. So pause the game often. This is what you will see. So this is your area, the 3x3 square that we started with basically. Then you have your control options and then your map. Now if you hit the tab button, that's once, twice, and 3 times. Now we can bring that up and back as often as we want. The escape key will bring you to where your save game. Hit the escape key again and it returns you. The tab gets you through these screens here. And you don't have to have this open to use controls. So like if we want to build something, that's B. So let's tab that out, and then I can hit the B key and it will bring up the build option. Escape gets you out of that. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look around. You can see, if you remember from our initial map, there was a river to the western edge. We were in a level 2 zone, which was low hills. So you can see the dark area here to the right is inside the mountain or inside the hills. And so this is the cliff facings on the hill. These brown circles are trees, some bigger trees here. We can actually click on things. So there's some bamboo. That's a pear tree. This big tree is a highwood trunk. There's another highwood trunk. That's a smaller highwood trunk coming in there. A willow tree, a cherry tree. Now, one of the things implemented in the game is fruit trees actually have fruit now, so you can pick those and have a food source from that. We want to get out of here. We hit the escape button, and that brings us back to where we were. Now, we're still paused, and you'll notice a few things on here. We have some different color walls. Well, that's red sand. This is clay. Remember I said we could grow in clay, so that means right inside the mountain here we should have some growing surface. Here is some siltstone. Now that's a rock. Cannot grow on rock, but that means there's rock in here. We have lignite, which is very good. Now a lot of times I will use the DF hack program and find what ores are in an area. Particularly I like iron and flux so I can make steel. I did not do that in this case, and again that's an option you can utilize to make the game as easy or as hard as you want. So lignite is a coal that you can burn, and it's a better source than pure wood. Wood converts on a 1-to-1 basis. One tree equals one block of wood that you can burn in a forge to make something. Lignite, I believe it converts at a 3-to-1 rate, and so it multiplies rapidly, and so that is very good to have, especially if you are not going to have magma. Now, we did not embark on a volcano. It is possible that there is still magma on the map, but it will be very deep. Now you can see off to the right here, we're at 144. So this is the 144th level. And if we hit shift and then the right arrow, the period key, we go down. If we hit the shift and the left arrow with the comma key, we go up. And you can see going down, we're at level 140. Going up, 41, 42, 43, and 44. So that's your up and down key. So we can go up into the sky till we can't see anything, or the tops of the trees, and then we can go deep underground where we have no idea what's down there. So come back up to 144. Now, what you'd like to do here is once you figure where you're going to be, well, let's do that first. I'm going to hit escape to where I can see the whole map. I want to come down one level. So there's my river, the river that was on the map on the west side. Now you can see right now it is ice. So it is frozen. It does freeze over in the wintertime, so that's something we'll have to be aware of. And if I mark that just with my mouse, I can come up, and so I can see the basic outline of the river in here. But then if I go back down, you can see they have some tidal pools off to the sides, these little water ponds that are also ice. Now, what I have to look at is my wagon. Sometimes when you embark, it will actually put you on top of the water. That means you are pressed for time to get all of your things off the wagon and moved before the thaw comes, or your wagon and all your goods fall into the water and are lost. So let's look at a couple of other icons here. Here we've got a colony of termites. These little arrows here, these are ramps. So this is an upward slope. So from here you could walk up the slope to the next level up to here. And then from here you can see it's a downward slope. So this puts you on a little plateau overlooking our wagon, which is right about here. And then up here you would go up higher continually until you couldn't go any higher, until you got to the top of the hills, which would be this area right here. So there's nowhere else. So this is the very top of the hills. So it's about 7 levels up from where our wagon is. Now when you're cutting trees, we're getting a little ahead, but when you're cutting trees, you want to be very careful that you're cutting at the base of the tree. The issue you run into is your guy will climb the tree to cut that area, and then he gets stuck and dies. So you want to avoid that. So always make sure you're cutting at the base of the tree. So let's go ahead and do that. I want to go ahead and show you. So we're going to I'm going to show you the controls here. So we want to designate something. So that's the D key. So we're going to designate to chop down trees with the T key. So then I hit the T button on my keyboard. And then to move your cursor here, you can either use your arrows, and if you want to move in chunks, you hit the shift arrow and it jumps by a magnitude. Instead of just one, it jumps a whole space. So what we can do here is come down and we can find a starting point. We hit enter, and look, if I move it, it's flashing. Okay, so then we're going to go over, let's say 3 and up 3, and hit enter, and it just highlighted all of these trees. So all of these trees are now designated to be chopped down, and these are the base of the trees on this level of the plateau. And you can chop down any tree on the map. Now, elves don't like you doing that and could eventually start a war with you over it, but who cares? They're elves. So I'm going to get back out of here and get back down to my first level where my wagon is. Right there. All right, so I know the river's off to the west here, and I've got mountain off to the east. Now I have options. I can either build outside and then dig down, or I can actually dig into the mountain, whichever I prefer. And different games, you may want to do different things so you're not falling into the same rut. So you may want to build a fortress that's all outside and only dig into the ground to access stone and ore. You may want to do a single level build where you only play on one level. So I might want to this wouldn't be a great map because you're limited, but you do have some space, and then a lot of your fortress would end up overflowing to the outside. So that could be an option where you build everything on one level. Sometimes you might build all your living and everything and workshops on one level, and the only thing you do on subsequent levels is mining and have underground quarries, something of that nature. So we need to figure out where we want our entrance. Now, the big thing about Dwarf Fortress is the game is meant to be fun, and they spell that capital F, capital U, capital N with an exclamation point. And what they mean by that is you're going to die tragically and horribly, but that's fun. Get used to it. There are attacks, there are sieges, there are wars, and all of that is interspersed with the design and development, which is limited only by your imagination at this point. So I know my friend in particular had asked me about digging, and I know a lot of people, I see that all the time. I can't even figure out how to dig a hole. And hey, I was one of those guys once too. So let's come back to our thing here, and we want to go into designate again. And you learn these very quickly, okay? You learn them very quickly. So we're going to hit D, and we want to mine. So we're going now. There's two things you could do. You could actually dig into the dirt over here, in which case you would dig a down stair from this level, because you can't build an upstair right now. There's nowhere to go up into the sky. But there is a way to build stairs, and then you build multi-story buildings. We'll probably talk about that because that's one of the things I do with guard outposts that I use for defensive purposes. Or we can dig straight into a mountain. So mining is to dig into a mountain. So let's come right here, and we're going to just go to the very edge of the wall. We're going to hit enter, and just like before, it highlights that square. And then we can move our mouse with our arrow keys. We can, not our mouse, we can use our arrow keys, and we can figure out where we want to build. And when we reach the end point, we hit enter again. And this colored area that has shown up shows the area we want our miners to dig out. And when we unpause the game, they'll pick up their picks and they'll walk over there and they'll start digging that out. We've already marked those trees to be cut down, so they will the guy that's the woodcutter that we taught will pick up the axe. He'll go up and start cutting those trees down. And that's what's important about the initial setup, is having guys that can do the basics that you need to get started. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, I don't have any soldiers. I don't have any of this. I don't have any of that. And that's true. You don't. But as the game progresses, you will get migrants. As you get developed, you will get more and more migrants. And you start off with 7, and you may end up with as many as 200 dwarves to do your bidding. So, don't worry. Those guys will come in with their own skill sets. They're all unique and have their own pros and cons, and they will add depth to your fortress. Now, the other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to mark these trees. Now, I showed you how to mark in a wide area, but we've chosen T. So again, that's designate T to chop down trees. Then you can actually use your mouse and you can individually click if you only want a few of these done. So if you're not wanting to do a whole wide area, you can actually individually click on them, and you can see, just like before, they've been highlighted or designated to be chopped down. You can gather plants. Now, right now we're covered in snow. If we look at that, let's see. So yes, a pile of snow-covered grass. So you can see we're covered in snow. That's what this is, and that's why it's frozen. So what I'm going to do here is we've designated this area to mine out. We've designated a few trees to be cut down over here. Now what I want to show you is a hotkey. Hotkeys are very useful. So we're going to be digging in here. So I'm going to make that the middle of my map. I'm going to hit Shift H. Shift H. And then that brings up your hotkeys. Now your default is your gate, which is where your wagon is. Now I'm going to overwrite that, so you're going to hit the F1 key. You're going to hit the Z or Z key, and then that has locked this in. And then if I wanted to rename it, you would hit little n, and I could rename that front gate. Only so much room for typing, so let's see, we'll change it there. And then same thing, if I hit F2, then F2 highlights. You would hit Z or Z to zoom to that area. So you could have 16 hotkeys done to move you quickly to different points of interest or key points in your fortress as it develops. And I will show you as I add hot points as we go on. So I'm going to escape out of that. We have our, and then basically what happens, so watch this. So I can go down several levels, but then I hit the F1 key and we're immediately back up to the top surface at our gate. So that's what the use of a hotkey is. So I'm going to unpause it and let the dwarves get started. They gather their things. Here come my miners to start digging. And there's my guy with his axe, and you can see the tree has been selected to be cut down. And there he's cut that tree down. Now, one of the things you have to be careful of when you cut trees down, they do open a hole into the next level if it's hollow below that point. So you'll have to put a floor, build a floor, and that would be the B key. Build something. A floor would be a construction, which is, I know it's capital C, but I need to be able to find it. There it is. Walls, floors, stairs, and tracks. So capital Shift C. And then I want to build a floor, so that would be a small f. And then I could place my floor, and then you can use either your mouse to click on it, or you can use your arrow keys to move the cursor around. And I can hit enter, and then I can choose what to build the floor out of. So let's say I want to build it out of pine logs. Now that's been redesignated. You can see the dark spot, and one of our guys that's a builder will come and build that. So I'm going to designate another digging. So again, that's D mine, and what I want to do here is I want to build a couple of rooms. So that's a 5 by 5. what you'll find if you watch a lot of Let's Plays, a lot of guys are very, very into making sure that things are linear and, you know, match up well. I don't get so hung up in that, although I do, you know, to some extent. And again, you can go on and look at some other Let's Plays. You can go look at some pictures, Google Dwarf Fortress, and you will see some astounding designs that people get very, very creative with, you know, double helix style hallways and you know, DNA type strand setups with their fortress, and I'm not that creative, so you know, I just basically put a lot of squares where I need things and try to make it make sense. You do want to try to have as little pathing as possible, so basically just one way in and out. So your doors don't have to make decisions on which way to go. And you also want to limit your exposure to the outside world, because again, you're going to get attacked. So we want to build in some safety defenses for ourselves. So what I've done here is they were just about finished, so I'm going to give them a little bit more. And while they're doing that, I'm going to unpause, and I want you to watch that somebody's going to come and build that floor right there. And if we click on it, now it's a pine log floor, and if there was a hole into our next level here, that would be sealed up and we would be safe from any invasion at that point. Now these guys are pretty much doing nothing, and that's going to be normal in the early going, and that shows up here that you have 4 idlers. That means they're not doing anything. Well, we have 2 mining, 1 cutting trees, the other 4 aren't doing anything. Now my woodcutter is also my carpenter, so I can't use him right now, but one of these guys is my mason, and I have a crafts dwarf. But the first thing I want to work on is getting all of my things from my wagon. If I double click on that, I have a lot of items out there. I need to get them inside. And so we're going to finish a couple of rooms here. They're mining it out. And as their skill goes up, they get faster and faster. And the type of rock that they're digging in also determines how long it takes them to dig through it. So they can dig through soil or dirt a lot faster. All right, this top room is done, so let's pause it. We're going to go back into here to look, and I want to make a stockpile. So that's P. And one of the first things is I know we have some cloth. So H, I'm going to use my arrow keys and shift arrow over. And I am going to make a stockpile of cloth. Then I'm going to switch it to L for leather. And I'm going to put another stockpile here. So each stockpile, if you can look in there, is 2 by 5. Okay, with a gap between them. You don't have to have the gap. They won't flow into each other. And the only thing they will put into that particular stockpile is leather. The only thing they will put into that stockpile is cloth. So if we unpause this, let me get this out of the way while they finish mining. Now we're going to see our 4 idlers. They will start hauling leather and cloth to this area. And here they come. So here's some of our leather skins going in. There's some of our cloth going in. Now, that's full. They don't have anywhere to put the rock right now, so they don't have any place else to put any leather that we may have. Now, if we click on that stockpile, and we're going to do that by using the Q button, and Q is for set building tasks and preferences. So we're going to hit Q, and we're going to go over, we're going to use our arrow keys to get over that stockpile, and you can see that we can change settings, and we can add bins. Now it's a 2 by 5, so there's 10 spaces in the stockpile, so you could have a maximum number of bins of 10, and you can use your C and V buttons, that's lowercase to shift it by 1, or Shift C, Shift V to min-max it. So if I hit Shift C, it changes it to 0. Shift V changes it to 10. Lowercase c decreases it by 1. Lowercase v increases it by 1. So that's how that works. So a bin can hold multiple quantities of the item in that stockpile. So if we get a bin made, they'll put a bin down, and then that may hold 5 or 10 hides by itself. So we're going to leave that. Some stockpiles don't work very well with bins, or at least they didn't, and I still work off of that assumption. So we're going to let them still move some cloth. We've still got the mining going on. I'd like them to mine out this last. We just had an accident happen. You can see here, woodworker cancels tree that he is unconscious. So what we can do is we can hit the A button, and that'll bring up our announcements. Now, anything in red is urgent, and we can zoom. If we highlight that using our up and down keys, then we can hit the Z or Z key and zoom to that location. All right, so our cursor's there. I'm going to move it off of him, and you can see that he is flashing with a white X. So that means there's an issue with him. So we're going to highlight him. We're going to hit enter. Now there's 4 things in this square. There's our woodworker, logs, snow-covered grass, and a pile of snow. I'm going to hit enter on the person I want. And we can see she suffered a major injury. She's afraid, and her right upper leg is mangled beyond recognition. Oh, that's killer. This early, and we're already hurt. Now, what we can also do, and you'll use this button a lot, is the U key. All right, this brings up all of your citizens, and then you can use tab to cycle through the top. We can see, the arrow key. So the left and right arrow keys. So we have our 7 current citizens, our animals and livestock that we bought and brought with us, anything else that's on the map, and this is what you'll want to check a lot. So we have a giant echidna, and it's a wild animal. If you're ever invaded, you'll have a list of people here, and they will show up as hostile. And then you can track anybody that has died or has gone missing. So when you come to this screen, we know that our woodworker, and I want to go to unit. Now this is a different screen. You see different information. It's the same person, but this is the only way to get this information, and I want to look at their wounds. So I'm going to hit W, and they're unconscious, and you can see the right upper leg is red, and there's a green arrow, which means you can use your plus and minus keys to move up and down that list to get to the bottom of it. There's only one item, the left foot, but the right upper leg is injured. So that's not good. So we're going to hit escape. Now they have to be rescued at this point. If they don't, they could die outside. So I'm going to hit my F1 key, my hot button, to get back downstairs. And I am going to hit B, Shift C, B for build, W for workshops, lowercase w, and C right here for a carpenter's workshop. And I'm going to tab up, and I'm going to put it close to our entrance here, and I'm going to make that out of pine logs. Now here's the issue. My carpenter is also the guy cutting down the tree, and he is hurt. So I will have to pull up Dwarf Therapist, which is an add-on. You won't be able to see this, I don't think. No, you can't see this. I wish I could figure that out, but hey, I'm kind of new at this. And I am going to have to make my 2 stone guys, my mason and my stone crafter. I'm going to make them carpenters, and I'm going to make one of them my woodcutter. and I'm going to disable wood cutting on the guy that's injured so he drops the axe. So that's what I've done. Excuse me. So my mason here, he can now do carpentry. So one of them should come and build the carpenter workshop. And my stone crafter is now a carpenter and a woodcutter. So he'll either go build the carpenter, but eventually he'll go get the axe and continue cutting down the trees. So, all right, here he is building the shop. They're mining away. All right, you can't really see it here, but if we click on it, there's my carpenter's workshop. So to use a workshop, and we're getting a little ahead of where I want it to be, but circumstances dictate that, I'm going to add a new task. And I'm going to use the plus and minus keys to move around in here. I need to make a wooden crutch. I need to make I'm going to make 2 bins for that leather and cloth stockpile, 1 for each. Then I'm going to make a bed so they can put him in it. And I'm also going to make a wooden table. Alright, so that's what I have asked this shop to do. It shouldn't take very long, although they're not very experienced. And what you'll see is one of the guys here, he's picked up a piece of wood and he's on his way to make the crutch. Alright, so we're going to let him do that work. And what we're going to do is build a hospital down here. And, alright, they finished digging out 2 of the rooms, so back to P for the stockpiles. I want to do a U for furniture. And I'm going to do a whole room of furniture. And then I want to do G for finished goods. And I'm going to do the 3x5 section of that. And we didn't bring any ammo, weapons, or armor. We've got cloth. I don't need to do gems right now. I'm going to do A, and what A is animals, but when we escape and I hit Q to come in, you remember we saw earlier that you can change settings. So that's what I want to do here. I want to hit the S key while I'm on an animal stockpile, and this will tell you what animals can be held there. Well, I'm going to hit B for block all, but I am going to hit the U button for empty cages, and the J for empty animal traps. So any empty cages will be put here, because I will build some cages at some point. And then we can build a separate stockpile where we actually put any animals that we capture. And that could include goblins that we get from combat as well. Alright, I tell you, we'll put another cut in right here. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.